computer.
Well, it says the recording now.
You're not minimized. Okay, I got you. I want to pull this up in just a second. Hello, and welcome to On the Couch, Conversations with Brenda Porter. Today's guest is the wonderful Marguerite Hannah. She is a woman who wears multiple hats daily. Her 14 years administrating at Horizon Theater, she has been the business manager all of those 14 years, as well as for 6 years, she has been the director of the Apprentice Company, and now she holds a title of the Associate Artistic Producer at the Horizon Theater. In addition, Marguerite is the director, and she's an equity actor with regional credits everywhere from the Oregon Shakespeare Festival to St. Louis Black Rep at the Alliance Theater. She's a woman of many talents. She's also a member of the National Alliance for Musical Theater Festival Selection Committee and a National New Plate Network Board Secretary. Wow, a woman of many, many talents. Thank you for joining us today, Marguerite.
Thank you for having me.
You do wear many, many, many hats. So I want to talk a little bit about all of them. But let's talk first about your 14 years as a business manager at a regional theater in Atlanta that I'm aware of. You are the only African-American business manager of a regional theater.
Well, I would say that prior to Chandra showing up at True Colors,
right,
I was really it on the business side of theater administration in this market, which was always interesting to me. You know what I mean? Kind of stumbled into it, and there is I always say there's always a gateway drug for a lot of people in theater. Mm-hmm. And so administration was not my gateway drug. It definitely was acting. But when I got of a certain age where I wanted more stability and I needed a job, and I was like, I'd love to stay in the business, as happens to a lot of us. And then I ended up able to get a job as a business manager at Horizon. Now, also, quiet as it's kept, I always was into the business side of things. I don't have a theater degree. I have a public relations degree. I had worked in offices and things like that all my life. But when I decided that I didn't really enjoy that as much, I went to my first love, theater. And then when it was time to try to open that up to more, because acting was kind of a powerless position. And I did want to be more involved. And so then I ended up in administration.
Well, you have a unique situation at Horizon in that because you are an artist, you are able to use your business mind, and then you also have the opportunity to audition and become part of their productions as well. And how has that worked, being able to do both?
Well, I will always give Horizon's founding artistic director, Lisa Adler, credit for that. Because when she and I talked about jobs at Horizon, she said, I know you as an artist, I know you as an actor. If you come on board and the deal is you don't get to audition and act, as soon as you get caught up on your bills, you'll be gone. You know. And I will always remember that conversation. And so that was our agreement coming out of the gate. And for many years, I did do more acting. As the years have gone on, the idea of being at a theater every night after you've been at a theater all day long has lost its sheen. But at heart, I'm still an actor. You know, I always say I will retire to full-time acting again. You know what I mean?
I can see that. Yeah. So, and then about 6 years ago or so, you started working with the Apprentice Company, bringing them up.
Yeah, that was a really so here's the thing about me, and there have been several books written about this lately. I am definitely someone who has a tendency to say yes. And I don't necessarily have to know 100% of what I'm doing to say yes. Now, saying yes the second time is always like, who knows? But that first round of yes, sometimes I kick myself for it, but I am a yes person. So, so the Apprentice Company at Horizon have been going for a couple of years. And the managing director who used to manage that program left. And so Lisa looked at me and it was like, well, and back in the day, and I mean in the day, the Alliance Theater used to have an intern program. And I had been part of that program, and Lisa knew that I was familiar with how the structure of programs like that work. But I'm like, I am nobody's teacher. That was my famous mantra. I'm nobody's teacher. But I did it anyway, especially because there was a group that had already been pulled together, and they'd been there like a month and a half, and they needed a director. So I jumped in, and I would say that I was learning on the job, but I was committed to trying to give them the best experience. For me, it is what turned me into a producer, because for 9 or 10 months, you have this company of artists who part of our structure always was to give them opportunities to perform as a group, and also the other activities a theater needs an apprentice company to learn and assist from. And so that's really, you know, I did not do it thinking that I was going to learn how to produce. You know, I just was like, okay, yeah, maybe, yeah, why not? And then next thing I realized, you know, then you're like programming, and okay, next month we're doing X, and oh gosh, you know what I mean? And as a business manager, I've been facilitating Horizon's programming, you know, the main stage programming and all of the other programming, because I do contracts and work with the designers and the actors and payroll and, you know, you name it. I was doing that, but I never really looked at it as producing until I started running the Apprentice Company. And then it was like, oh yeah, that's what this is, isn't it? So, yeah. And then come to find out that I am my own version of a teacher.
See? You're nobody's teacher. What can I say?
Yeah, right, exactly. Kind of old school.
You're a director, so you know, you as a director, working with young people, so many times you end up teaching anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So, but you mentioned some of the things that a business manager does. For those people who don't know what a business manager at a theater does, tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I will say one of the challenges with theater is every theater has a different set of titles that fit certain assignments. They're all kind of in the same ballpark, but you have to know that particular theater to figure out how it's broken down. So at Horizon, it could be also similar to being a general manager, because at Horizon, it meant contracts for everyone, equity liaison on contracts, contracts for designers and directors, payroll for everyone, expense advances and reconciliation for designers and tech crew. And also, which was kind of wild for me, having to work on the taxes for an organization, like the payroll taxes and sales taxes for selling tickets, because in the state of Georgia, you have to pay sales taxes on that kind of stuff. And like general liability, you know, because a company has general liability insurance for regular building things, but it also has workman's comp insurance for stuff. So there was all of this stuff that I kept going, oh, and royalties, you know, then you also have to deal with, you know, like box office people create a certain level of royalty reports and things like that. But that final interaction with agents and those companies, you know, would come through me. So yeah, I was constantly going, oh, okay, okay.
Good thing you're a yes person.
Yeah, good thing I'm a yes person.
Because I think I definitely would have gone, oh no, that's too much. Sorry, you got to get somebody else. You got to get a general manager and a business manager and a managing director and a, you know, so.
Well, you know, part of being a yes person for me has always been, are these skills that I can take somewhere else? Okay, so I'm not saying that every day I've been at Horizon, I've been looking to leave. I'm saying that for me, I always kind of know in my heart of hearts, everything comes to an end somehow. And are these skills that I can use somewhere else? And that's always been my strategy. So when presented with an opportunity of something that I know I'm not really interested in,
Mm-hmm.
I may do a little bit to help you out, but I'm not going to get carried away. Like, for instance, I spent a decent amount of my youth, a few years, in public relations and journalism. I know that I am not an on-demand writer. So whenever presented with, well, why don't you want to do marketing? I'm like, I can strategize marketing because my degree is in communication. I don't want to do marketing because I'm not writing copy on demand. I tried that once. It doesn't work on me. I don't do that, you know. So there are those hard stops that, like I said, if I try it once and I can't get it, then I don't really go back to the well on that. I'm like, oh, no, you can keep that. I don't do that. And it's amazing how many times you get offered things and you're like, no, let me tell you again. No.
Well, you know, as the artistic director at Impact, I find that because Impact does not have a budget to pay anybody to do marketing or to do any of our administrative work, I find that I am doing all of it, you know, and
Right.
and there's just skills that I don't have or don't do well, like copy on demand. And somebody will say, well, you got to get something out. And I'm like, yes, I know. And I will procrastinate because I know it's not something that I do and I don't do well. So then I'm up against the gun trying to get it done. So, So I guess I can't call on you to say yes when I need that.
That's that place where you get, girl. Wait, but then I get real, then I'll rely on the fact that I've known you for years. Girl, don't ask me to do that. You got some books you want me to help you with? I can help you with your books. But
nah. So what is the, out of that particular job, what would you say was the hardest thing, and what is the thing that you enjoy most?
Well, I can tell you the part I enjoy most. Numbers don't talk back.
When you're saying actors do, you're saying people do. I'm just what?
All of the above. Anything involving people. They talk. They give you challenges. They don't like the way that happened. They want it another way. Numbers, you just keep looking for that penny. You just keep looking for that penny. And so I will admit that, I'm not saying that I learned any of it overnight. I mean, once, it takes a while to get used to, like, okay, how do you reconcile this? Why do I keep doing it wrong? But once you get it, you've got it. And I think there is something very reassuring about that for me. And when in doubt, when people are bugging me or when I need to focus, I really don't have a problem sitting still with an Excel spreadsheet and some numbers going, leave me alone. I'm working on this now because I really don't want to hear you. So I like numbers. I will say the thing that I don't like a whole lot about administration, but I have gotten better at it. I am not a natural haggler. Mm-hmm. So going back to people several times on a situation is something that I've had to learn how to do better or find where it fits in my mind of how I can do that. So negotiating things, like I said, I have learned a skill set. I've learned where it fits in my body, but for a long time, that was really hard. And if you get down to the final, like, we're back and forth, and I'm comfortable with the deal, but Lisa isn't. I'm like, hey, I'm sorry. It's your turn now. Tag, you're it. You know what I mean? Because there's that place where I can't get that extra out of them. Now you keep talking and talking in a circle, and by the time they hang up, they're like, whatever you want. But I've gotten you as far as you can. So I think that's a hard part for me. And actually, that's why I keep talking about what I learned from the apprentice company. I mean, hopefully apprentices learned from it and they tell me they did. But working with them, and you understand this, with limited resources, not enough time, asking more than people think they can or really want to do. I had to learn how to be very, just very direct. Mm-hmm. And I know that it's created a directness in me that can sometimes now be off-putting to people. And I'm like, I'm really still me. My brain has gotten to that cut to the chase kind of place where inside my brain now I'm going, yes, no, okay, we won't do that. We can reduce it to this. We can just do that. Okay, the answer is bam. Because I've started calculating how much time I have left and I don't have the bandwidth to keep this going. So here's the answer. Next question. So yeah, that's one of those side effects of administration, I think, because you just get to that point after you've been doing it a few years, and especially especially in smaller organizations, and you understand this, where you don't have the time or the bandwidth or the resources to kick everything down the curve for another few days. And you're still going to end up doing that. But whenever you can like shut it down, here's the answer and move on, you end up having to teach yourself that.
Wow.
And I think that the hardest part, and the day I really realized I had become a producer, was when I made a choice in the moment that I thought I had processed through all angles. And because this wasn't even an apprentice company thing. This was one of those things where Lisa was like, it's your call, and it was a company of main stage actors. And folks didn't like the decision I made. And that's when I was like, oh, okay, it's big girl time. You know what I mean? Because it was like, and they really never forgave me till the production was over. I was like, ooh, okay, that's how that goes.
See, it was just one of the things that, as a producer, that I've had to struggle with, because you're working with people that you work with, you act with, you joke with, and then suddenly you have to put on another hat, and you have to fire somebody, or you have to, give a hard no to something, and people don't understand it because you're an actor, you're with us, you're one of us. You're like, yeah, but no. Yeah. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. And I think it was wild because I remember vividly when this happened, and I kept going, but these people have known me for years. Why would they not think that I wasn't trying to make a good choice? You know what I mean? And then when I got over whining about it, I was like, okay, well, you know what I mean? Like, okay, well, I see. I know who I am now. You know what I mean? Because I think in those kind of moments, you say to yourself, okay, so what do you prefer? Do you want to go back and just be an actor? Very capable of it? Or, or do you want to stay on this side of being part of the decision making? And when confronted with the choice, I was like, I just want to get to be a better decision maker. So I'll take this side. Yeah.
That's interesting. Many years ago, the late Carol Mitchell-Leon told me, when I first started directing, he said, you don't realize it, but there's going to be a difference. Actors are going to be actors doing their thing, and you're going to be a director over here. They're going to go out and have coffee. They might invite you, but they don't really care if you want to go or not. And even though you've been an actor and you're a people person, Brenda, there's going to be a difference. And I was like, oh, no. Because, these are my friends. I act with them. Yeah. But she was so right. And the separation is even more so once you become a producer. And so, yeah. Now you mentioned if you wanted to, sort of do the acting thing, that you're very capable, and you are. You are extremely capable. You're very talented actor. And you've had the opportunity to act all over, from the West Coast to the East Coast. Do you have a favorite role? You were trying to figure out where I was going with this, weren't you?
Yeah, I was. And then you went there, and I was like, ooh. Well, I got to do Pearl Clegg's Blues for an Alabama Sky, and Angel was fun. I did her out in Oregon. And that was, now she also kind of made me want to stop acting because she's so gut-wrenching. But yeah, that one, I think that was the best all-around journey as the character takes you on. And so, yeah, Yeah, I would say that was my favorite. Mm-hmm.
So I know I jumped, and I will jump. Um, you have a new position at Horizon, um, and I first of all, congratulations. Uh, Yay! Um, and this is a very recent uh, promotion. Um, and so, how do you see things changing with that position in terms of, I mean, it's a different title, it's a different position. Those of us who don't know what's the difference, will you still be doing business things, or are those decisions made at this point?
Well, there is so this virtual world that we're all living in now is making things a little slower. Um, More of the business stuff is going away from me um, to other staff members in the office. So, like I said, they're taking my security blankets away. Um, I'm still doing some of it because there's some of it right now over this last few weeks that it's like it is easier for me to knock it out than to virtually have the two of us trying to teach you how to do it. What is different? What is different is there's going to be more involvement in me assisting in selection and being the shepherd of a project.
Okay.
Now, I've also been doing this long enough to say how it works out is always, it's always a challenge because anything new works out and evolves in a kind of slow manner. So here's the thing, the only thing I think that is really different is the acknowledgement that my voice in selection is on the books. I can't say that this is going to be so foreign to what it is that I have done. Or, I mean, as the years go on, I have contributed more, and I'm not that quiet a person. So if something needs to be said, I'm gonna pray on it and hope I say it the best way, but I'm gonna say it. And like I said, once a project has been locked in, a lot of the back end I've been doing, so that part changes as far as who does the nuts and bolts of it. But in interacting with actors and designers and directors, I've been a point of contact. I mean, so this change, this change has a lot to do with what's going on in our country right now. Mm-hmm. It has a lot to do with acknowledgement that that equity, diversity, and inclusion can and should mean more than the room is integrated. Mm-hmm. I think the conversations that are being had now in offices around the country are trying to acknowledge that power has not been shared to the extent that people in power thought it was being shared. Mm-hmm. And so now there is more acknowledgement of that. And people are looking to their left and right and saying, oh, I'm sorry, or no, or being challenged when the conversation comes up and they're like, well, I've always, and I think there's a lot more honesty in the room now, because people of color have gotten fed up. I think the last few years, the last 3.5 years of the direction of our country has brought people of color to a place where, if asked, people tell the truth more.
I think you're right. I think you're definitely right. We don't hide behind what we think they want to hear, or we don't want to hurt their feelings, or we don't want to lose our job, or we don't want to. I think you're right. I think people are much more going, look, that was not right, or this is how I feel, or here's my voice.
And exactly, here's my voice. And when challenged, it's like, no, you can't tell me how your actions affected me. I'm going to tell you how your actions have affected me. And it's that season of change that has an OG like me going, well, we'll see how it works out. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, hey, but I also, it has become very clear in America, and it's kind of interesting. I am sure that there are white administrators who feel blindsided because they really did not realize how much things were bubbling inside us. They really didn't. I mean, I can tell. It's like, whoa, really? Yeah, it's like, yeah, and unfortunately, I think some younger people in our communities, they didn't realize how much things were bubbling in our generation. You know what I mean? They thought we were cool, and we were like, you get to a point where it's like, give me my check.
Give me my check.
Thank you. But when everything has come to a head this year, in this kind of divine cyclone, that now it's like, well, no. I mean, if you want to ask me a direct question, then I'm going to give you a direct answer, and it's not going to be the answer you expect. And that's what's happening. And so, in an effort to attempt to see what change looks like, folks like me have gotten another title. We'll see how it works.
Well, I think it's very interesting because I think people are getting an opportunity to come to the table in a way that they have deserved to come to the table in a long time, across the board. And I think it's very interesting, this movement, because it does not have a particular leader like we had MLK or Malcolm X or even Marcus Garvey, Frederick Douglass. We all in the past, there's been one or two people that they can say, this is a leader or a movement led by these people. And as of yet, there's not come a leader forth, and yet change is happening, which I go, wow.
Well, it's interesting that you say that, because I hadn't thought about that, Brenda, but you are on point, and maybe, so But what I have seen in response to it is many people standing up and saying, I have to do my part. I can't ignore this moment. I can't say someone else has got it.
Mm-hmm.
I have to, in the rooms that I'm in, I have to be that person. You know, I have found myself saying to people that I'm in rooms now going, oh my God, I'm my grandfather. I was in the rooms for one reason, I thought, right? And then all this happens, and I'm like, oh, so this is when Granddaddy was in the rooms, being the only one and saying, okay, let's have this conversation. I'm like, I didn't expect to be back. So, so there is as Barack would say, there's an urgency of now that I think has taken a lot of people, as opposed to that one person. A lot of people have said, okay, I refuse to be, we don't know where this is going. We don't know how long it lasts. We don't know what happens next. But we are of a generation that were home in high school with our afros and our Black Power symbols when our older relatives were in the street.
Right.
So we are not oblivious or ignorant of what is necessary to hold yourself accountable for this moment.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that many of us don't want our consciences left with the feeling that we did nothing.
Okay.
And so that's where I am right now, that I would love to run from it all and just say, you know, I was close to retirement anyway. Peace out. But I don't want that on my conscience. I don't want it on my conscience. So okay. The and I say it this way for me because I've spent the last few years trying to calm down and mellow out. When I was a kid, they used to call me the militant midget, you know. And all through college and my early years, you know, like I've, you know, me, a lot of mouth, always in your face, all, you know. And so I spent all this time trying to mellow myself out. And I still am, in comparison to the old me, still mellow, but having to not ignore things again and really speak up. It's a toll. It's a toll, but I can't, my conscience, I can't. So so like, yeah, so yeah, I got a new title in Horizon. Woohoo! I don't know what that means.
Oh, well, hey, you'll be part of the change. That's all right.
That's exactly, but we do it what we got to do. So,
so our time is coming near to the end, but I want to talk just for a little bit before we go about some of the projects and things that you're working on, now.
Well, I think it's all part of what we were just saying. So, a couple of years ago, it became very clear to me that I needed even more avenues where my own voice was being heard. And when that became clear to me, and I started praying about it, then all of a sudden other things started opening up. And I was like, oh, okay, well, I guess that was the right momentum, because now these things are happening. So as a result of that, there are two national organizations that I'm really active with now. One of them is NNPN, which is the National New Play Network. That is an organization of small professional theaters dedicated to the creation and sustaining of new work. So, and Horizon is a core member of the organization. And I used to have to go to the meetings as a proxy. And then a couple of years ago, the organization decided with their new strategic plan that one thing that they were going to actively pursue is being more equity, diversity, and all of that. So I happened to be at meetings when they were starting to strategize on that. And then one thing led to another, and then they changed their board structure because of that. And I applied for the board and then got voted on the board. So that is something that I was doing because I thought it was expanding what I would do when I retired, and then come to find out, that's why I say I feel like my grandfather, and then come to find out all of this is happening. And now I'm like, oh, I'm in the room. Okay, I see why. Okay, Lord. Okay, I see how this happened.
Be careful about your prayers, lady.
I know, girl. See, what was that? Be careful when you say expand my territory. It's like, uh-huh. And then the other things similar happened with the National Alliance of Music Theater. I was just at one of these meetings, and it so happened that the festival committee chair, coordinator person was at one of these meetings, heard me, met me, and it was like, oh my God, And so what they do is they promote new musicals. And every year they have a big festival in New York with New York producing backers in the whole bit. So this is my second year being involved with them. And like I said, in both instances, I initially felt this was just about my personal expansion in the arts and the arts administration. And now I'm like, oh yeah, so now here's to all the extra committees that I'm working on, because both groups are actively trying to acknowledge their systemic racism, and I'm like, hey, oh, right, oh God.
Girl, go and represent.
Yeah, man. So that's that has been a huge thing going on. It's got me understanding more about anti-racism, anti-bias, and in rooms where in whatever incremental step is available for these groups, they are working on it. And interesting thing, and this is an interesting, cool way to kind of round up what we're talking about. In working with these two groups, I've really started to understand the whole idea of allies and allyship, because I did not know that there were allies for people of color in these organizations already. And so now I am in meetings where the most fascinating thing to me is to see an ally kick the door open and see other white people on the call going, oh, okay, and then know that they kicked it and now they're about to throw the ball over to me or someone else of color that's in the room, and it's like, so what do you think we should do about that? And you're like, oh, damn, now how we playing this? Oh, okay. Yeah. So it is a different day. It's like, oh, you kicked the door, and okay, I caught it. Okay. So there's a whole lot of that going on that's very interesting. Very interesting. So that's the world of Marguerite and arts administration, in particular in theater. And you never know what you can do in this business until you start saying yeah.
It's a lesson that I will. No, I was going to say I was going to follow. Well, not. It's a lesson that I will remember that you told me.
Well, you already said yes. You got your own thing, boo.
You're right. So thank you so much, Marguerite, for joining us today. I appreciate your sharing, your spirit and your love with us. And I invite all of you to come back to our next Conversations on the Couch at any time. And I hope to see you soon on the stage, as well as your new title.
And at the grocery store, maybe. We'll
yeah,
see
and
each other
maybe,
in person.
Maybe. Only if you have on your mask and we are socially distanced, please. All right. Take care. Thank you.
Thank you, Brenda.
Uh-huh.